Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thank you for joining us. I don't know why I said howdy. I never say howdy. Today is true Beyond Physical style, as I am going to completely avoid any topic relating to exercise. And that's why we do this. We do this because we want to have interesting conversations and share them with you. And they have to do with health and wellness because in some way there is a connection to either mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional well-being, but it's not always physical, and that's our approach at Horizen. That's our philosophy. We use strength training as our lever and as our vessel, but there are so many different elements of being well. So today we're going to talk about work. We're going to talk about a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey, but the main topic of conversation is that they don't teach you this at business school. What don't they teach you at business school? They don't teach you about being direct. They don't teach you about the emotional challenges that one faces when running a business. There's none of that talk. It's mainly the quantifiable hard skills that they give you, but they don't really go into things that are typically more tacit in nature and that one can only really pick up on through experience, which I understand is difficult to codify how to navigate a challenging emotional environment in the workspace. But I think it's so important. And I think when running a business, knowing how to modulate your emotions and make decisions with a clear mind and to understand the different dynamics that are at play socially within the workspace are some of the most important things that you're going to engage with as an entrepreneur and as anyone who works. So firstly, just to give myself some credibility and why what I have to say holds any weight, from a theoretical point of view, I come from a commerce background. My undergrad is in management science, a Bachelor of Commerce in Management Science, and my postgrad, which I'm finishing in a couple of months, which is very exciting, is also in business management. I'm a little bit of a management nerd. It's what I spend most of my time reading up on outside of work. It's just, I love it and it's fun and interesting, and I love systems and people and getting people to work together and collaborate, and because I think that's one of the amazing things about human beings is that we collaborate very differently. So I love that. I love learning about different work cultures, how you can cultivate a work culture that's conducive to people living happy and fulfilled lives and delivering an amazing service. Basically, it's what I really enjoy, and I have some theoretical foundation in my education. And then I've also, for the last 6 years, on and off, and now for the last almost 3 years full-time, been an entrepreneur and run my own businesses, and I've interacted with people, and all of the businesses that I have run, all three, are people-centric and involve people and involve managing people and involve serving people. So that's why I feel like navigating this topic for me is it's something that I'm fairly comfortable with. The irony is that the topic itself and navigating these kinds of things, I am not actually comfortable with yet, because I don't think it's something that's comfortable for anyone. But what am I saying? I sound like I'm beating around the bush, and that's very ironic because the topic is being direct and being direct in the workplace. So to take us back one step, it's just to put the comment out there of being good with people doesn't necessarily mean that you will manage or run a business well. You hear a lot of people saying one of the most important things to running a business and managing a business is being good with people, but it's not necessarily true because the dynamics are so different. The social dynamics of the workplace versus the social dynamics of general life are very, very different, also I've found. And I've considered myself to be good with people. So going into the works, I would actually go as far as to say it's my most natural aptitude is connecting with people and getting to know people. It's what I love and enjoy and find the easiest in life. But when it comes to work, we all have great relationships here at Horizen. I'm not going to say anything bad because I don't feel bad about our relationships here in the gym. But navigating work relationships has at times been extremely challenging, and I think that's very normal. I think that's very normal, but I felt that it would be something very important to touch on because they did not teach us this at business school, and I don't think they teach other people this at business school either. It's something that you just learn on the job. But anyway, context. I recently let someone go at the gym. I really, really like the guy, consider him a close friend, but professionally we just weren't aligned. And I had no idea how to navigate this situation. It wasn't the first time that I've let someone go. Unfortunately, it's one of, if not the hardest thing you'll ever have to be faced with as an employer, as someone in a management position, as someone who can make decisions within a business. Being the yes or no to whether someone continues to receive a salary and a livelihood is a very heavy at times. It's a hugely fortunate position to be in, but it can also be heavy, obviously, when it's not going the way that you want it to go. So I had no idea how to navigate this situation. I I thought I thought that it was within everyone's best interest for me to navigate the situation as carefully as possible and to be as considered as possible. I generally consider myself quite calculated and measured in how I act at work. And I tried to carry that through to this process. And the process felt very different because there was a deeper personal connection at, at play here. So, and I suppose this is where things go to not considering the personal connection too much, and work is work and play is play, but we're human beings, and I think it's natural to factor in the the personal side of things. So I found it much more challenging, and because of that I started thinking of ways to quote unquote soften the blow, and in doing so I found myself to be quite vague and indirect in my communication, which ended up making the situation, ironically, a lot more difficult for the person in question and for myself because of the fact that I was being unclear and not direct. And the irony is that I was trying to be as accommodating and understanding as possible, but for why? And it's an amazing thing that running a business does for you. It puts up the mirror and it creates these opportunities for reflection and introspection. And upon reflecting on how I navigated the situation, I found that actually, as much as it was about trying to be gentle and accommodating and kind and not to hurt this person's feelings, it was also motivated from a selfish point of view, which was I did not want to be the bad guy. And I think that's a very human predisposition. We're social animals. We want to be accepted by the tribe. We don't want to be evil. We don't want to be the bad guy in general. And that is the trap that I let myself fall into, where I prioritized self-preservation in a way and avoiding the short-term discomfort. And that made the situation more difficult than it had to be. If I had been direct about it, and I had said, "Listen, these are the considerations that I've had to assess, and after X, Y, and Z, this is the decision. It's been really difficult, but this is what's going to be happening." Saying it out loud, it feels so simple, but at the time, it didn't feel that simple. And I think because emotions came into the picture and the ego came into the picture, as I've mentioned previously on the podcast, I allowed my communication and my judgment to become a little bit clouded. And that is something that I want everyone to know when it comes to work, when it comes to specifically working with somebody who you have a personal relationship with or you've developed a personal relationship with. Don't allow your emotions to cloud your judgment. And it's quite striking to be in the situation where your emotions do cloud your judgment, because it often comes in a way that you aren't actually aware of it, because you almost go into a survival mode, which is exactly what I said. It's a form of self-preservation, and you need to turn off that monkey mind and revert to the analytical, remain empathetic, remain fair, remain kind, but be decisive, be direct, and save yourself and the person that you are going to be taking through this difficult period the trouble of uncertainty, of back and forth, of gray areas, and be direct, because you're guaranteed to be the bad guy at some point for some time. It's not a state or a label that you're going to be able to avoid for the rest of your life. We are all going to be perceived negatively at some time, and that is okay. And what is the most important thing? The most important thing is, why are you doing what you're doing? What is the vision? What is the mission? And is your decision aligned with those things? If your decision is aligned with those things, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, because your priority is to preserve and to maintain and to uphold and work towards the vision and the mission and why you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes that means stepping away and or having someone step away, firing someone, letting someone go, doing something really difficult, which is part of the cost of building something that you feel strongly about. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be emotionally heavy. It's going to challenge you. And those are the things that they do tell you in these books, not at business school, but in books about impactful creators and business people, is that there's a tremendous cost to building one's vision, to building towards one's mission. That doesn't come for free. And the cost is more than financial. It's emotional, it's social, it's mental. There's so many things that will test you, and sometimes the decisions that you make, many times the decisions that you make are those tests, and they really do test the devotion with which you are working towards that goal. And I had a very raw reflection on this specific little moment, where I thought to myself, this is what the dream costs. And this is pretty brutal for me, because I value relationships very deeply, and I thought it just felt so heavy and it felt so hard, and it tested me in a way that none of the financial challenges have tested me. I mean, when we started Horizen, it was, and it still is, completely bootstrapped. It's self-funded, it's lean, it's scrappy. In the first 2 winters that we had, I bankrolled the business myself. I slept in the gym. It wasn't easy. It really tested me. It took me to my financial limits. I had many sleepless nights, but that does not even come close to the challenge of letting someone go within your business that you are actually connected with on a personal level. It was really quite unique. It was a really, and I don't want to say unexpectedly difficult, because I did expect it to be difficult, but I didn't expect it to affect me to the degree that it did. And I think that it's a powerful insight for me to be faced with that level of challenge and understand what the things are that I find challenging. And again, to talk to what I mentioned earlier, which is that being good with people doesn't mean that you're going to be good at managing a business, because the dynamics are different, and the personal dynamics of running and managing this business are different to social dynamics, which is, I suppose, obvious when said out loud, but again, I think it's something that requires more thought. So that was a pretty raw reflection on the emotional side of navigating a termination of someone within your organization. But to recap in a more structured way, being direct in work and life is important. And this transfers to life. It doesn't have to only be in the workplace. Of course, when you are speaking to a loved one, this is different because you do in some ways want to, maybe it is appropriate at times to beat around the bush because you don't want to be harsh. You want to be as soft as possible. And I think that is actually necessary and fine at times. But in work, there's a little bit more of a priority level on directness, and that's because you have a productivity goal in mind. You're trying to maximize the value that you're getting from the moments and minutes that you're spending together when you are at least working on something. So being direct is important. Why is being direct important? It's important because it communicates a clear message, and that trumps all other outcomes around being direct. As long as the message is clear, you've done what you need to do. It's the absolute worst thing when there's a lack of clarity and people are unsure about what's happening. That is 101 failure in management. Plan, lead, organize, control are the basic 4 functions of management, and you cannot do those things without clarity. Are we clear on what we're planning towards? Am I clear on what I'm leading us towards? Are we organized around a clear objective? And is it measurable outcomes that we're trying to control? They can't be measurable if they're unclear. So direct communication leads to clarity, leads to more seamless management. What being indirect can do, it can lead to confusion, it can lead to ambiguity. Some corporate cultures or company cultures are not so fond of asking questions. So you're indirect, people are unclear, they don't ask questions, people work in the wrong direction. What's worse than doing nothing? Doing something in the wrong direction. And that comes from being unclear with communication. So there is a huge impetus on being clear, and that comes from being direct. And why are people indirect? Why are we indirect? Why have I been indirect in the work environment before? Because I want to avoid being the bad guy, and I think that applies to a handful of people, a lot of people. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, because who wants to do that? And these are understandable motives for being indirect, but ultimately they can either, number one, be a little bit cowardly, because you don't want to face the short-term discomfort in order to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and you don't want to deal with the discomfort of making the trip over that bridge in the short term, but you end up creating long-term discomfort for yourself by communicating in a way that creates uncertainty and ambiguity. So this is why people are often indirect, trying to avoid being the bad guy, and they don't want to hurt people's feelings. And like I said, it can be cowardly, and at the same time, it's also incredibly selfish, because you are, at the end of the day, prioritizing your own comfort over the overriding vision and mission that the business is on. So that's not okay. If you are working towards doing something impactful, you've got to remain connected to that why, especially in the challenging times. And just to kind of reiterate, it's ultimately it's quite selfish to be indirect, and that's not something that we want in a team and in life, but specifically in business. You're working in a team and you're collaborating, and being a part of a team means being selfless and doing what is best for the whole, putting the team first, not being selfish for self-preservation, not being short-sighted. And look, let me also clarify, I'm not painting myself with the brush of being a selfish, a short-sighted, cowardly leader. I'm isolating this specific incident and painting that specific behavior with those adjectives, because I don't think it's wrong. I think it's quite correct that the reason behind behaving the way that I did, navigating that situation the way that I did, although well-intentioned, was ultimately selfish, was ultimately perhaps cowardly, was ultimately quite short-sighted. And that's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. We make mistakes in life. We make mistakes at work. That's okay. That's how we learn. I've had such incredible insights from reflecting on this experience. It's been very difficult, as I've said, but I've learned a tremendous amount. And that's from making the mistake of being indirect, which I will not make going forward. I will be as direct as I possibly can be without being nasty, because that is what my team deserves. That is what my vision deserves. That is what I deserve for myself if I want to improve as a leader and as somebody who's managing this business. So that was a very, very intimate inside reflection on a decision I recently navigated at the gym. Don't know how I feel about sharing it publicly, but regardless, we're on the up. Horizen's on the up. We are creating something awesome. The community is growing. The gym is getting rather cozy. So if you want to get a membership, I'd highly advise you do that soon, because we need space. And we're on the lookout for space, and we are working on some really awesome stuff at the moment. We've got some sick merch projects in the pipeline. We've got some really cool campaigns, content related, in the pipeline. We've got some amazing service offering things in the pipeline. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, maybe more space soon, but I won't allude to too much. And we are incredibly fortunate to be in that position. And I must thank you as a part of the community for supporting us on this journey. We will continue to share our learnings along the way, because I think there's lots of value in that. And if there's anything in particular from health, wellness, physical specific, mental specific, emotional specific, work specific, whatever it may be, you leave a comment or you reach out to me personally or reach out to Horizen. We'd love to answer that request and have a chat about whatever it may be, because you guys have these amazing questions, and I think there are other people who will have questions just like you, and your asking us will allow us to answer not just you, but a whole bunch of other people, and just offer some insight on that from our perspective. So thank you for being engaged and for listening and learning along this journey with us. And I hope there were some new things that you picked up from that. And if not, I hope that maybe there's someone you have in mind that might learn from it. But thanks for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to the show, guys. We love answering specific questions. So if there's anything you want to know, leave a comment or reach out to us directly at HorizenZA on Instagram, or email us at movement@horizengym.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Seb Prentice, and this is Beyond Physical.